Most people grow up believing that saving money is the path to wealth. Hold on tight to every dollar, spend less, play it safe. That's the rule we're taught. And on the surface, it sounds smart, even responsible. But here's the truth no one tells you. That exact mindset is what keeps most people stuck. Because the game of money isn't about holding on. It's about knowing when and how to spend with purpose. Because money doesn't grow when it's sitting still. It grows when it moves. The wealthy understand something most people never fully grasp. They don't just hold money, they deploy it. Every dollar they use is sent out with a purpose. It's not spent emotionally, it's assigned strategically. It's like sending soldiers into the field, each one tasked with bringing back more. But the average person does the opposite. They lock their money away thinking they're protecting it. In reality, they're suffocating it. What feels like safety is often just slow financial decline. From a young age, you were taught to avoid risk, save your money, play it safe, don't lose what you have. It sounds wise on the surface, but it builds a mindset rooted in fear, and fear doesn't create wealth, it preserves limitation. People who build real power don't operate from fear. They understand loss is part of the process. They don't avoid it, they use it. They're willing to trade short-term comfort for long-term control. Look at history. Every empire, every fortune, every dominant force was built by someone who chose to act while others hesitated. While most people saved, they invested. While others waited, they moved. And there's a reason for that, because staying still is the fastest way to fall behind. Think about billionaires for a second. They already have more money than they could ever spend in a lifetime. Yet they continue investing millions into businesses, ideas, networks, and influence. Why? Because they know that standing still is the real risk. If money isn't working, it's weakening. While you're holding onto your savings, inflation is quietly reducing its value. While you're waiting for the perfect time, someone else is already using their money to move forward, buying assets, building connections, creating opportunities, and over time that gap becomes massive. Here's something most people never hear. Money doesn't like being idle. When it sits still, it slowly loses power. But when it moves, when it's directed into opportunities, it starts to multiply. That's why wealthy people don't hesitate to spend. But understand this clearly, they're not spending recklessly. They're investing strategically. Every move has intent. Every decision has a purpose. Meanwhile, most people treat spending like a loss. They feel guilty about it. They celebrate saving small amounts, thinking that's progress. But the wealthy think differently. They don't focus on protecting money. They focus on strengthening their position. Because once your position weakens, money alone won't save you. You could have savings, but without growth, without leverage, without momentum, you're always one setback away from starting over. So, let's make this real. Imagine you have $1,000. What do you do with it? Do you upgrade your phone, buy new clothes, spend it on things that give you short-term satisfaction? Or do you put it into something that could return $5,000 or $10? Later? A skill, a business, a connection, a system. Most people choose comfort, and that's exactly why they stay where they are. They trade long-term power for short-term pleasure. They spend to impress people who don't matter, instead of investing in opportunities that could change their entire life. Here's the hard truth. Your future isn't determined by how much you earn. It's determined by what you do with what you earn. Money is not a trophy. It's a tool. And the moment you start treating it like something fragile, something you must protect at all costs, you've already stepped out of the real game. Because wealth doesn't reward caution alone. It rewards calculated action. You don't build something meaningful by playing safe your entire life. You build it by making decisions that feel uncomfortable but move you forward. Now here's where most people get confused. They think all spending is the same. It's not. There's a massive difference between spending to escape and spending to grow. If you're spending money just to feel better, distract yourself, or chase temporary happiness, that's not power. That's avoidance. But if you're spending money to increase your ability, your knowledge, your reach, your efficiency, that's leverage. That's how progress is made. The wealthy don't just think differently, they operate differently. They treat money like a resource that can eliminate weaknesses. They use it to buy time, to buy access, to buy information, to buy control. While the average person spends to feel good, the wealthy spend to become stronger. And over time, that difference compounds. It's not about how much money you have, it's about how you use it. You could give two people the same amount, and one will stay stuck while the other builds something powerful. Why? Because of mindset. And if you think this is about greed, you're missing the point entirely. This is about survival in a system that rewards movement. Opportunities don't wait around. They don't slow down for hesitation. They move fast, and they reward those who are willing to act. The moment you stop moving, you start becoming irrelevant. That's the reality. So, ask yourself honestly, how many opportunities have you missed because you were too cautious? How many times did you say, "I'll wait," when you should have acted? Maybe it was a course you didn't buy, a business you didn't start, a connection you didn't pursue. You told yourself you couldn't afford it. But what if the real cost was staying the same? Because every time you delay growth, someone else steps in and takes that opportunity. They invest, they act, they move forward, and over time, they build the life you were too hesitant to chase. Here's a shift that changes everything. Stop thinking in terms of price. Start thinking in terms of cost. Price is what you pay today. Cost is what you lose by not acting. Most people see a price tag and immediately pull back, but the wealthy ask a different question. What will it cost me if I don't do this? That one shift separates those who grow from those who stay stuck. And yes, it sounds intense because it is. The game of wealth isn't gentle. It's not designed to be fair. It rewards those who understand timing, leverage, and momentum. You've probably been told that patience is a virtue, and it is, but only when used correctly. Patience doesn't mean doing nothing. It means waiting with strategy. It means knowing when to act and when to hold. The problem is most people use patience as an excuse to avoid risk, and while they wait, others move. So, here's the reality you need to face. If you're not using your money to build power, someone else is using theirs to outpace you. While your money sits still, theirs is working, compounding, expanding, creating influence. You save your money in a bank. The bank uses your money to make more money. You think you're being safe. But in reality, you're playing a game you don't fully understand. The system isn't built for you to win by doing nothing. It's built for those who know how to use what they have. And once you understand that, everything starts to shift. You stop feeling guilty for investing in yourself. You stop hesitating every time an opportunity shows up. You start seeing money not as something to protect, but something to command. Because at the end of the day, if you don't control your money, someone else will control you with theirs. Now that you understand the idea of money needing movement, let's go deeper, because this is where things start to separate average thinking from strategic thinking. This isn't theory. These are principles that people use quietly to build real power over time. The first one is simple, but most people ignore it. Spend to build capability. The average person spends money to feel comfortable. Better clothes, better gadgets, better distractions. It feels good in the moment, but it doesn't change their position. The wealthy do the opposite. They spend to become more capable. Every dollar they use is aimed at increasing their value in the marketplace because they understand something critical. The more valuable you become, the more money you can generate. So, instead of asking, "Do I want this?" they ask, "Will this make me better?" That one question changes everything. Think about it like this. One person saves $1,000 and feels secure. That money just sits there, untouched. Another person takes that same $1, zeroed and invests it into learning a high-income skill. Something like sales, content creation, or investing. At first it feels risky, but over time that skill starts generating income. Months later, that same person is making $5,000, maybe $10,000, because they chose growth over comfort. Same money, different mindset. The system doesn't reward effort alone. It rewards usefulness. If your skills don't scale your output, you stay stuck no matter how hard you work. That's why people who understand the game treat education differently. They don't see it as an expense. They see it as a weapon. They pay to learn from people who are already ahead. They invest in environments where better ideas exist. They put themselves in positions where growth is faster. Because sometimes one piece of information, one connection, one shift in thinking can change everything. But most people hesitate. They say, "I'll just learn it for free." And yes, you can. But here's the hidden cost: time. Free information often costs you years, trial and error, confusion, delays. Paid information costs you money, but it buys speed. And speed is one of the biggest advantages you can have. The wealthy understand this deeply. They don't just buy knowledge. They buy acceleration. They collapse time. While others are figuring things out slowly, they're already moving ahead. There's a simple lesson here. Being cheap with money can make you very expensive in time. And time is the one thing you never get back. So, every time you hesitate to invest in yourself, you're not saving, you're delaying. Now let's move to the next level. Spend to buy position. This is where the game becomes even more strategic. Because success isn't just about what you know. It's about where you are and who you're around. The wealthy understand that environment shapes outcomes. So, they don't just build skills, they buy access. Access to rooms, access to conversations, access to people who are already operating at a higher level. Because proximity creates opportunity. You could be incredibly talented, but if no one sees you, it doesn't matter. Visibility matters. Position matters. And sometimes the fastest way to change your position is to invest your way into better environments. Let's say someone spends $5,000 or $10,000 to attend a high-level event or join a private group. To most people, that sounds crazy. But what if that room leads to a business partnership, a deal, an opportunity worth 6 figures or more? Suddenly, that cost looks very different. You're not paying for the event. You're paying for access to opportunity. The average person waits for luck. The strategic person puts themselves in the path of it. They don't hope things happen. They position themselves so things are more likely to happen. That's a completely different way of thinking. The poor spend on consumption. The wealthy spend on positioning. One buys things. The other buys access. And access changes everything. But here's the reality most people avoid. Access usually has a price. And if you're not willing to pay it, whether in money, effort, or risk, you stay outside. That's how the system filters people. It separates those who think short-term from those who think long-term. Now let's take this even further. Spend to create leverage. This is one of the most powerful concepts you can understand. Leverage is what allows you to multiply your output without multiplying your effort. It's how one person can produce the results of 10 or even 100. And here's the key. Leverage almost always requires investment. The average person tries to do everything themselves. They think they're saving money, but in reality, they're limiting their growth because time and energy are finite. You can only do so much on your own. The wealthy know this, so they use money to expand their reach. They hire people. They use tools. They build systems. They delegate tasks that don't require their direct attention. And by doing that, they free themselves to focus on what actually moves the needle. Think about it like this. If your time is worth $50 an hour, but you spend hours doing tasks someone else could do for 10, you're not saving money. You're losing potential. The difference is mindset. The average person thinks, "I'll just do it myself." The strategic thinker asks, "How can I use money to free my time?" Because time is the real asset. Money can be replaced. Time can't. There are people who stay stuck for years simply because they refuse to let go of control. They want to manage everything, handle everything, do everything, but that mindset keeps them small. Growth requires delegation. It requires trust. It requires letting go of low-value tasks, so you can focus on high-value decisions. That's leverage, and once you start using it, everything changes. Your output increases, your opportunities expand, your growth accelerates because now it's not just you working. It's your systems, your team, your investments, all moving at the same time. This is how people scale. This is how they build something bigger than themselves. Now let's go deeper into something even more valuable. Spend to buy time. This might be the most important principle of all because time is the one resource you can never recover. Once it's gone, it's gone. The average person treats time casually. They waste hours trying to save small amounts of money. They delay decisions. They postpone action. They think they have plenty of time, but the wealthy think differently. They see time as their most valuable asset, and they're willing to spend money to protect it. They'll pay for convenience. They'll pay for speed. They'll pay to avoid delays, because they understand that moving faster creates more opportunities. The faster you move, the more chances you get. The more chances you get, the more likely you are to win. It's that simple. So, instead of asking, "How can I save money here?" they ask, "How can I save time?" Because saving time often leads to making more money later. And here's something powerful to think about. Money is renewable. Time is not. You can always earn more money, but you can never get back a wasted year. So, every time you choose to delay something important, you're paying with your future. And most people don't even realize it. They think they're being smart, but they're actually slowing themselves down. Meanwhile, someone else is moving faster, learning faster, building faster, and eventually winning the gap. That's the difference. It's not luck. It's how they use their resources. So, the real question becomes, are you using your money to buy comfort? Or are you using it to buy capability, position, leverage, and time? Because those four things, when combined, create momentum, and momentum is what builds everything. Now we move into the final layer, the part most people never reach because it requires a completely different way of thinking. Spend to create substitution. This is where the game becomes quiet but powerful. Substitution means using money to remove dependency. It means building options so you're never stuck relying on a single source, whether that's income, people, platforms, or systems. The average person depends on one thing, one job, one paycheck, one opportunity, and that's where the risk is highest, because the moment that one thing disappears, everything collapses. The wealthy don't allow that. They use money to create alternatives, multiple income streams, multiple systems, multiple paths. So if one breaks, another takes over. That's substitution, that's control. Think about a content creator who relies on just one platform. If that platform changes its algorithm or shuts down their reach, their income disappears overnight. But someone thinking strategically will use money to expand, building an email list, running ads, diversifying platforms, creating systems outside of one dependency. Now they're protected. Now they have options. That's not luck. That's design. The same applies everywhere. A business that depends on one supplier is fragile, but if it invests in multiple sources, it becomes resilient. A person with one skill is limited, but someone who invests in multiple skills becomes adaptable. And adaptability is power, because the more replaceable your dependencies are, the less control they have over you. And the more irreplaceable you become, the more control you gain. This is how people quietly build dominance. Not by showing off, but by removing weaknesses. And here's the truth. Building that level of control costs money up front, but it buys freedom long term. Now, let's tie everything together with one final principle to gain total leverage. At this level, money is no longer just a resource, it becomes a system that works for you, a system that multiplies your actions, a system that creates outcomes even when you're not actively working. This is where real power starts to show. Because now, every dollar you use is doing something specific. It's either buying you time, or expanding your reach, or strengthening your position, or creating backup systems. Everything becomes intentional. Nothing is random. And when you reach that level, you stop asking, "Should I spend this?" Instead, you ask, "What does this give me control over?" Because that's what this is really about. Control. Control over your time. Control over your income. Control over your environment. Control over your future. And here's a truth most people avoid. Money sitting still doesn't give you control. Money in motion does. When you use money to build systems, those systems keep working. When you use money to build relationships, those relationships open doors. When you use money to build skills, those skills keep producing value. That's how momentum is created. And momentum is what separates people who struggle from people who scale. Now, let's get brutally honest for a moment. Most people aren't stuck because they lack money. They're stuck because they misuse it. They spend emotionally instead of strategically. They chase comfort instead of capability. They protect what little they have instead of growing it. And over time, that pattern keeps them exactly where they are. Meanwhile, someone else, maybe with the same starting point, is making different decisions. They're investing, they're positioning, they're leveraging, they're moving. And that difference compounds year after year, decision after decision, until the gap becomes impossible to ignore. And from the outside, it looks like luck. but it's not. It's strategy. So, here's the shift you need to make. Stop thinking of money as something you own. Start thinking of it as something you direct. Every dollar is a decision. Every decision is a move. And every move either pushes you forward or holds you back. There is no neutral. Even doing nothing is a decision. And that decision has consequences. So, the next time you're about to spend money, pause for a second. Ask yourself, does this make me stronger? Does this increase my capability? Does this improve my position? Does this buy me time? Does this create leverage? If the answer is no, then you already know what it is. It's distraction. And distraction is the enemy of growth. But if the answer is yes, even if it feels uncomfortable, even if it feels risky, that's where growth lives. That's where progress starts. That's where your next level is. Because the people who win in this game aren't the ones who avoid risk completely. They're the ones who understand it. They measure it. They use it. There's a difference between reckless spending and strategic investment. One is emotional. The other is intentional. And that difference changes everything. So don't confuse movement with progress. Moving money randomly won't make you wealthy, but moving money with purpose will. That's the key. Purpose, direction, strategy. Because at the highest level, wealth isn't about having more. It's about controlling more. Controlling outcomes. Controlling opportunities. Controlling the game itself. And money is just the tool that makes that possible. So stop treating it like something fragile. Stop putting it on a pedestal. Stop letting fear dictate how you use it. If this strategy has changed the way you look at the wealth in your hands, please subscribe and like the channel. We are decoding the hidden mechanics of power and prosperity. Invest in your future. The next chapter of wealth will be revealed soon.